Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to talk about Book 12 of the Wheel of Time series, The Gathering Storm, by Robert Jordan and Brandon Sanderson. So as always, considering how far we are into the series, this review will be entirely spoiler filled. So if you haven't read it and you're okay with spoilers, then fine. But if don't want to be spoiled, then bow out. So yeah, with that being said, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And let's begin. So yeah, let's go ahead and talk about Egwane now, since some of Matt's stuff kind of overlaps with hers. So the Varen stuff very much overlaps with Egwane stuff, but we'll talk about that in a second. I want to first talk about how Egwane masterfully handled her situation. I thought it was really nice in the last book when we get like her, having been reduced down to a novice and stuff, and how she's basically showing up everybody and stuff. I thought that was a lot of fun. We didn't get a great deal of it last book, but in this one we got like a whole bunch of it, like the majority of it, almost probably the majority of the book, and it worked out so well. So previously I didn't pay much attention to what she was doing. I just kind of saw her as resisting a little bit, pulling a little manipulation and stuff. But like now, I don't even see it as really manipulation anymore. So this is a thing that goes for like all the Aes Sedai. They are so up their own asses. They love the smell of their own farts so much that even when stuff like what's happened at the White Tower with the breaking of the tower and Elida doing just all this terrible stuff, them being just terribly infested by dark friends and stuff like that, like they're so hyped up on their own stuff that them even knowing this and understanding this and recognizing this, they're not able to even acknowledge that this stuff is happening. Like the disbanding of an entire Aja, or like taking the shawl away from one of the sisters and reducing her to no longer being Aes Sedai and stuff, when the Amerlin has no real power to do that at all. The fact that these women are accepting it is like them being too afraid to break Aes Sedai calm and protocol and stuff. They don't want to shake stuff up, so they're going with it. They're so terrified to like project this image of a less than perfect stable Amerlin or less than perfect stable White Tower kind of thing, or just to besmirch the image of Aes Sedai. They're so afraid of that they're afraid to do anything about Elida, so they're just like in place. They're just kind of stuck with it. But Egwene, having lived outside of all of that, she recognizes all of that. At least that's how I see it. Because she very much embraces the Aes Sedai, smelling farts and all that kind of stuff. So she very much embraces all that nature of them and stuff, like how she takes her oaths very seriously despite having not sworn on the oath rod and stuff. So like she understands all of that, but she has enough outside perspective to come in and see what all the other women are doing. So her conversations she's having with the sitters and all this kind of stuff, and like the things that might almost come off as manipulation, is really just her subtly talking to them, getting them to acknowledge what they already know in such a way where they can't ignore it. And I think that came across really, really well in this book. And I thought it was kind of beautiful the way it all just played out, because like no matter what would have happened, she ultimately would have been made Amerlin to both sides. Even if Elida didn't get captured or any of that stuff happened, they would have ultimately ended up putting down Elida and putting Egwene up. It was just inevitable. So I just thought that was just done so well. And then, so let's go ahead and talk about the Seanchan attack. So because of stuff that happens in Rand's story arc, he tries to sue for peace with the Seanchan and it doesn't work. Their first move, because they assume that the White Tower is under Rand's control and they assume that the White Tower is like a big piece of his power, they want to go ahead and attack the White Tower. So they do this raid thing where they're basically going to kidnap Aes Sedai. They got their Rockin' and Toe Rockin' or whatever, those basically dragons. Like it's so. Can I just talk about that for a second? Like, how amazing is it? Because I remember the whole thing about the portal stones from so many books ago. Like, oh my goodness. But like the thought that the Seanchan had portal stones and knew how to use them well enough to go get creatures from other planets in the multiverse, and I'm like, that is just mind blowing in and of itself. Like, can anybody like talk about that? Like, can anybody like take a second and acknowledge that? They either they're Damani or just them, their nature of understanding the one power and stuff like that, so they use the Damani to do it or whatever. Like they just know enough to know about the multiverse, know how to open to a specific planet or a specific type of planet and pull these creatures, because they have like about 5 or 6 different type of creatures that are all from the multiverse. And I'm like, that's huge. I'm like, that is so huge. Like, does those worlds like ascribe to the rules of the wheel? Like, does any, like, how does any of that work? Like, multiverse stuff is so fun and just so out there that to just casually kind of have that be a thing is just like, it's almost like Witcher Convergence of the Spheres, but at least that results in a bunch of crazy monsters, like consistent monsters. I don't know, this whole thing, it just kind of was one of those things that, like, when I realized what it was, like, cause we've seen those creatures and stuff before, but I didn't pay much attention to it, so I looked it up and found out they use portal stones to pull them from other universes. I hope that's not an accidental spoiler for something later, but it's minor enough that I don't think it matters. But either way, that just kind of stopped me, and I'm just like, whoa. So yeah, there's just a little aside there. But during the whole raid and everything, when the Shan-Chan are attacking, Egwane, of course, being a badass, because she basically has real world experience, unlike the other Aes Sedai who have just been living in the tower and just soaking up all of the White Tower politics and stuff. They don't really, know what to do at the drop of a hat, especially to be attacked somewhere that they just assume is not attackable. So they just weren't prepared. So Gwen was running around setting up women to create circles and stuff to like defend themselves and everything. She goes and gets one of the Saangreal that's basically not as strong as like the Chuadon Call or even like Calendar or anything like that. But like she just gets one of the ones they have for the women. One that's supposed to be pretty big. It's got like a special name and stuff. I can't remember. But she uses that in conjunction with her already insane power. But her power was nerfed at the time because she was on that fork root T, which I thought was kind of interesting. I thought it's an interesting thing because we've got all this reputation of her being one of the strongest in like 1,000 years and stuff, but she doesn't get to really use that level of power. I mean, she probably does at least reach that scale using the Sangreal or whatever, but we don't really get to see her natural power. But I think also my entire opinion of that entire brag has been diminished because of the kin women that they found that are even stronger. She's found at least one woman that is like significantly older and quite a bit stronger than her, Nynaeve, or Elaine. So that feels like just a small scale understanding of the world. The Aes Sedai made that claim, and they obviously didn't know about the kinswomen and like the sea folk and like all of the other people that just channeling all around the world and stuff. So that claim, it doesn't hold much water for me anymore. It's just in that region and within those groups of people, they're strong, but they're not ridiculously. They're not they're not like Rand, who's capable of destroying the world. Apparently, we'll talk about that too. But yeah, so it just was really cool to see her like out the blasted walls, sending lightning strikes and fireballs, and just being an absolute badass, taking down all these Shan-Chan and stuff. And then everybody seeing her from a distance can't really see her because she's glowing with power. So they just, oh my god, somebody's up there being epic and stuff and doing all this. But I thought it was really crazy though, like as cool as she was being, like blasting out the sky and doing all this, the Shan-Chan still were like, okay, she's doing that. She's kind of got us pinned a little bit, but no, we're taking people up to the roof and taking them out. Like, so it's like she's right here facing out the tower, but they're sneaking around back and going up to the roof and stuff. So they still took a really, really heavy hit, including having Elida being taken away. And I thought the scene that we got of confirming that she's gone was such a TV show kind of thing. Like her waking up and not realizing where she is, and then having the Shan-Chan like calling good Damani and all that stuff, and then it just kind of cuts away with her screaming. Like that feels like such a cut to a commercial or like credits start rolling kind of thing. I thought it was funny because I had such a clear visual for it. But I just thought that was really, really nice that Gawyn was able to show off her being badass power, badass powerful and stuff. And then we've already seen like her just mental fortitude, her strength of mind, and her strength of character and her determination is just so, so well done. I feel like I haven't had a great opinion. Well, no, Egwene, I think I've been mostly neutral about Egwene for most of the books because she hasn't really done a whole great deal of stuff. But in this one she really came into her own for me. Like she like really stepped up and like really became Like, because I've seen online and stuff, a lot of people give a lot of credit to Egwane and stuff. I'm like, she hasn't done a whole lot lately. Like, she hasn't done even as much as like the Super 3 or anything like that. But I like after this, I'm like, okay, I get it. She's awesome. She's definitely going to go down in history as like one of the best, if not the best, and like most influential Amerlins to ever sit the White Tower or whatever. Like, so she's her legacy is secure. So she's going to be awesome. So let's talk about her conversation with Varen. So she finds out, or she doesn't find out, but she's told later. She has a conversation with Varen Sedai, who's been, kind of for me, pretty much for me, has been a background Aes Sedai. One of the, you all know, like so many characters get dialogue and just so many characters. But like she's just one of those that have been in the background for me. I haven't thought too much about her at all. So when she comes down and like sits down and like basically just explicitly lies to her, going like that dress is green, and that was one of the few dress like descriptions we got. We found her like I can't remember what color. I think I want to say it was like blue or something. She Gwen was wearing, but like it was one of the few times. That was something I also kind of noticed about the difference between Brandon and Robert. There's a lot less just rambling descriptions of things. It seems like the only time we got actual descriptions, it came and it was necessary almost immediately. So that was a big difference I noticed, and that's something that is a very much Brandon thing to do. He doesn't describe ad nauseum kind of the way Robert has done in previous books. So the whole thing when she comes in and just explicitly lies to her, it completely went over my head at first. I didn't pay much attention to it, and I'm like, oh, well, oh, she did lie. That wasn't like because when she starts telling her the whole thing, and I think the nature of this loophole that they use for her to be able to tell everything because she's a dark friend. She confesses that she's a dark friend and basically was coerced into taking the oaths to become a dark friend because the choice was die or take these oaths or whatever. And she's like I still got stuff to do. I want to research or whatever. And she figured also she could basically be a double agent, which I thought was really cool. So the way the oaths are worded, it basically says you can't tell any secrets or anything like that until the hour of your death, which is, it feels like an arrogance oversight because a lot of their oaths kind of have that same kind of verbiage in a way, that same kind of structure. So it feels like a very natural kind of oath that they would have because it's very similar in structure, but it clearly opens up a loophole where if you know the hour of your death, and then you can eventually like tell all these secrets. So that's what Varen does. She takes a poison in her tea or whatever that is fairly slow acting, gives her roughly an hour or whatever. So she confesses all this stuff to Egwene and gives her a book that's basically been her life's work. Not even her life's work, but like her life's work since joining the Black Aja and stuff. And like it's all the names. It's one of the Forsaken that's supposed to be hidden among the White Tower and stuff. So she just gives Egwene this huge cheat code, and it's like got this cool Taronga all around it that makes it invisible, which I thought like that's really cool. Like as much as was it Elaine or no, it has to be Egwene, yeah, who knows about a Taronga and stuff. I'm like you could probably change that, like because how they have so many dream rings and stuff now. So like you could probably take that, appropriate it, and make yourself an invisibility cloak. I'm sure you could do that. Like I'm sure you could change the principle of it and apply it to an outfit, and just you could. I don't know. That was the thought that I had. A little Harry Potter in there. But I thought just that entire conversation was really cool. Just the way Varen kind of explains to her, like I think all this work is worth one woman's life and stuff. And I'm like, yes. It totally is. You did like a service that is beyond anything. Your name needs to be like shouted to the heavens. Like we need songs and stories and sagas and just like people need to sing your praises forever for doing that. My only disappointment about it though is the fact that after everything happens with Egwene and the tower is mended and everything, they weren't able to get all the Black Aja out of the tower, including that Forsaken that was still in there. They weren't able to get everyone out. I mean, I imagine it was probably just kind of hard to do it, and a lot of them saw the writing on the wall, so it wasn't as cleanly done as it was in the with the rebels in the camp or whatever. So it just is kind of disappointing because I wanted her to like clean sweep everybody, but understandable. Like it would be probably a little too convenient for them to have gotten everyone out. And something else that I think is really interesting, it's a cool kind of dynamic. So the whole time, Egwene's basically been telling everybody, don't come rescue me, don't rescue me, I don't need no help, don't rescue me, I'm dealing with this and all this kind of stuff, right? So she ends up getting rescued because she's used so much power and does all this stuff, like just so much. She circled up using Sir Angriel and stuff. She had the fork root in her, all this stuff. So she ends up passing out. And when Suain and like the other people get in there, they basically take her and skedaddle on out. And like Egwene's like really pissed about it. She's like, I was so close, because in reality, she was very, very close to just having them completely ignore Elida and like raise her Zombelin and stuff like that. So she was like really close. So I totally understand her frustration of being very close to her goal. But it's also like, come on, you were passed out. There's Sean Chan kidnapping everybody. Like, you can't be that mad that they saved you. Like, it's a totally understandable thing. And quite frankly, you could probably get way back in there if you really wanted to. But then she had all these like internal arguments about, well, what would that mean? Is that like a surrender? Is that like so all that kind of stuff? But I like that it basically amounts to nothing, because at the same time of her being mad at everybody, they're on the inside like, Elida's gone, she's been taken. Who can we raise as Armerlin and stuff? Everybody's like, duh, the answer's obvious. It's the one we've been like looking to. All the novices call her mother and stuff like that. Everybody already know. The writing's on the wall. So the White Tower gets mended because the ones from in the tower come out and basically say, you win, you're Armerlin and stuff. And then the way all of that is concluded, though, I think it's really interesting. I thought it was a very mature, kind of a real life situation, a very real world kind of politics decision Egwene had to make with the what's the word, pardoning. She pardoned all the rebel Aes Sedai for rebelling against the tower, including herself, and she like wanted all of them to apologize and all this stuff. And it kind of goes a very long way to like explicitly acknowledging the split and what happened, and that it was wrong, and that none of the sisters should have wanted anything like that. And I thought it was really cool, even though it did kind of seem like she was pushing a lot on the rebels, especially considering she's one of the rebels and all that stuff. It's like, but also she shamed them a lot too for allowing Elida to do the stuff she did. So I just thought all of that just culminated really, really nicely. I thought it just all made so much sense the way it wrapped up. I've been so bored, more or less bored, with this tower split arc for so long. I was very much on the bandwagon of, we got Bran, we got all of his people, let's just go attack. Let's just like, I'm sick of this. Let's just go depose Elida and just take care of this, because we don't have time. Like, we gotta, like, the Tarmogain is like Tuesday. Like, we gotta do this stuff. Like, we gotta go, y'all. Like, so that's kind of where I've been. So to see it all wrap up very cleanly and very nicely, it's very satisfying in an interesting way. And it kind of happened really quickly, because like when it gets going, it all just kind of folds in and it just all happens. So I thought that was nice. But something else that's in the Gawyn storyline that's kind of a side character thing. Well, two of them. The Suain and Gareth Bryn thing, they get together. And I thought that was really cool, because it was one of those relationships that I wasn't paying really much attention to. Back when they had that whole oath thing, when she was stilled and stuff, and they took that oath to like, and all that, and she basically, because she broke the oath, she owed him penance or whatever. But like, there was ways in which she could have got around it. Everybody's like, why are you doing that? Like, blah, blah. And she's like, no, it's like, it's my... So from the very beginning, from that very first interaction, the way she was holding so hard to that oath and like owing him work and stuff like that, I knew she had a crush on him. And the way he basically wasn't giving her any deference as an Aes Sedai and stuff like that, I'm like, okay, he clearly has a crush on her, so he's giving her shit and stuff like that. He's kind of, they're kind of doing that love-or-spat thing. So when she bonds him and stuff, and they like officially get together and all, I'm like, okay, that's cool, that's cute, that's like nice. And I really like the call to attention to men's viewing. From, I don't know from how long ago, but from the men's viewing of they have to be near each other in order for him to save her life and she would save his. So I feel like part of her sticking with him was probably because of that, but a lot of it was definitely because she obviously had a crush on him and stuff. And the way that whole thing plays out is very interesting, because it implies a lot of stuff about men's visions. So the fact that Suain was going to get killed by a soldier, and then Bren saves her, but in the process he gets poisoned, and only because she remembers the viewing does she think to douse him and realize that he's poisoned or whatever, and she heals him of the poison. So they literally save each other's lives like back to back in like the same moment, which is really cool. It's a great little couple moment. But it kind of has this implication about men's viewings. It's like, if he hadn't stayed with her and stayed so close to her, he wouldn't have been in a situation to get poisoned, and she would have died. Or like, if they weren't together, maybe she wouldn't have been there. Like, there's just a lot of, but there's also like prophecy. It's like you can nitpick that kind of stuff a million ways. So similar, but they also bring up this other point, a different part of the story where Men is basically talking about like if the pattern's unraveling, all my viewings don't matter anyway because they're only viewings of an intact pattern of an intact the pattern or whatever. So there's that concept, which basically either is just telling you, oh well, Rand clearly is going to win, or it's saying you will still have those visions even if it's a yes, no, maybe so kind of scenario. So yeah. So let's go ahead and talk about Rand because this video is already very, very long. Oh, actually, no. Before we talk about Rand, we got to talk about Gawyn. So Gawyn pissed me off so much in this book. Oh my God. You being the son of a queen and your boner does not give you the right to run up in here and do all of this stuff and just have so much entitlement. Like, holy crap. Like, the fact that you already were with Elida's people, you're already on her side, which deserves basically a write-off. If you were told all, the whole tea of the situation and everything, and you still were on the lighter side, then that's a write-off. I'm done with you. But, like, he leaves them to go, specifically to go try to help Elaine, but then he won't give Brent any of the information that they need to deal with Elida's people if they're going to have to fight them and stuff. So I'm like, how are you defecting from them but then won't go help the people that you proclaim they're trying to help, especially if you're trying to help Egwane? This is Egwane's army that's supposed to help her, but you're not trying to help her, and then all you're doing is running into everybody's space and all this stuff like, Egwane needs my help. I know what's going on more than you all do who are having actual conversations with the woman. Like, I know better and all this stuff. I'm like, dude, calm down. Chill out. Go sit down. Go practice your sword forms or something. You haven't even been around. Like, how are you running up in this place talking about, like, you have all this entitlement. You deserve to be able to go help her. You know what's best for her and all this stuff. I'm like, man, if you don't go sit down, you need this backhand, like, for real. Like, he was pissing me off. Like, oh, the power of boners will get you slapped. Like, oh, my God. Like, I couldn't stand him. I not understand, like, yes, y'all in love, blah, 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 all that kind of, no. Even Egwane, when she goes up to deal with him, she's like, dude, chill out. I got to go do all of this stuff. Like, been working on this for who knows how long, been in the siege, been doing all this. I got captured. I've been beating all this stuff. Like, the little relationship thing is not the priority at the moment. Like, so go chill. Let me do my armor and stuff, and then we can have a conversation and probably go on a date or something. Like, his entitlement and just the way he was pushing himself on everything just was driving me insane. I was like, whoa. It's like, this dude needs to get backhanded. Like, oh, just go sit down, you goofy mofo. So, all right, that's my little venting session for the story, because like, oh, that got me.